Definitely hate production work, more of a one-off kind of guy. But when your daughter asks you to build 12 candle stands, nothing left to do but build them. So come along with me on this journey. I'll show you how I built these 12 red oak candle stands. Definitely didn't do a simple base. I went a few steps further. So let me know what you think. So as any good woodworker, or at least mediocre woodworker, I took the boards to the jointer. Got to get those edges nice and straight. I got to have something good to rest up against the fence there when you're making cuts. Got to start good at least. A lot of cap molding to cut. The cap is 1¼ inches wide. Eventually we'll have a double ogee, one on each edge. That's going to give it a nice ornamental look. The boards are red oak and they came in 8 feet and 10 feet length, so I had quite a bit of work to do to get those things all milled out. And I also had to cut out the columns as well. The columns are going to be 3/4 by 3/4, so of course I cut them proud, so when I take them to the planer later I'll have a little bit to remove. And look at that gripper go. Came in handy there, making those cuts nice and clean and of course safe. And here we are at the planer. Of course, it doesn't hurt whenever you got your boards hitting your outfeed support. They bowed quite badly once they came out of the planer. So here I am cutting the bases. They are 6 by 6, and so instead of a crosscut sled, I'm just using a standard miter gauge, getting everything nice and square and clean. And since I'm making 12 stands, of course I have to have 12 bases.
Okay, so I have all my bases cut, have all my columns already milled down to 3/4 inch, perfectly square and planed. Have all my top cap milled to the proper dimensions. Now I got to do the routing on that. But before I set up my router, I need to cut these little notches in this in the base so that these columns can rest in there perfectly flush. There's a number of ways you could do that. You could cut these out on the bandsaw. You could cut them out with a dado. But what I think I'm going to do is just set up a standard blade with a flat top kerf, and I'm going to just notch them out. So what I've done here is I've worked my way up to the final notch. So initially I had to set my fence a little further out, set my blade a little, or further in, excuse me, and then the blade a little lower, and I slowly worked up with the blade and in with the fence until I got the exact size I wanted. This was a little bit proud. I finally got it dead on the money here on this one. So now my setup is ready to go. Everything's locked in, so I'm going to cut these corners out using the table saw, just doing a notch and then flipping. So we'll see how that goes.
And you can see notching the bases is just simply making your rounds. And once you make all 4 corner cuts, you flip the board around and make the cuts again to click the notch.
One down, 11 more to go. If you notice, I have a sacrificial fence here clamped to my main fence. The reason being is it creates a gap or a void here so that your waste material has a place to go when it gets cut off. But when you put this against your main fence and make your cut, once you come back and make your second cut on that same angle and cut that corner off, that waste material has a place to go, and it prevents the blade from getting pinched into the wood. If it's tied up against the fence, it has nowhere to go. So this way, it's got some space, it's not under stress, you're able to make a cut safely and come out exactly the way you need to go.
And here I'm starting the ogee profile around the bases. Of course, you're not going to make that in one pass, so I am making multiple passes. At this point, it's just a simple round over. Now that the round over is done, I've raised the router, and you'll notice the push stick that I've got right there. I'll explain a little more about that in a moment. But for now, that's just kind of keeping the edges from busting out and splintering up badly. Of course, this is red oak, so that happens real easy.
Quick pro tip, anytime you're routing in grain, especially on a grainy wood like oak, you always want to back that up or else you're going to get splinters and split outs. So you may have noticed I had a modified push stick that was pushing in the corners to keep that from occurring. I wish I would have waited to notch these until after I did my profiles, but you always have to have a fix for your problems. So this modified push stick kept the blowout from occurring. You can see exactly what happened there. So.
And here I've set up a couple feather boards to hold the pieces down while I'm edge routing on the cap. I'm doing the same profile as the base, so start with a round over and eventually raise the router to create the ogee. Here I'm dadoing out the bottom of the cap molding. The cap molding dado is going to be about just right at 3/4 by 3/4. That'll fit nicely over the 3/4 inch columns, and it'll make assembly much easier when it comes to putting them together. And back to the router table to finish out that ogee on top. I had done the round over on the bottom first, and then now I'm finishing out the ogee. You can see that cap looks pretty nice now. And a nice little glimpse of everything on the workbench and table saw, ready to be sanded. And I chose to use the Ekasilk Plus foam product, 1/2 inch, to sand that profile on that foam, and you can see it did exceptionally well.
Tell you what, when you got all this 8 and 10 foot stock, you gotta sand and stain. It takes up a lot of shop space. Glad I moved some things around. Anyway, I'll sand it up and now ready to stain. So this ought to be fun. And of course, this can't be easy. Java was a little too dark. Georgian Cherry was a little too reddish brown. So what do we do when we have two colors that are close but not quite? We make a blend. So what I did was I found that 50-50 of the two mixed together was exactly the color she wanted. So let's get started.
Then starts the long, tedious process of staining. Well, you'd have thought that would have been simple and easy, but it did take me a little bit of time. I started with the bases first, got all the stain on the tops and bottoms of that, then worked my way over to the base and cap. And of course, being that's red oak, it just was sucking the pigment right in, so I had areas where I ended up having to go back and touch it up with a little bit more of the stain. And now the fun time of cutting all those miters. I did cut all the pieces straight at first, that way I didn't have to deal with changing the angle on the saw multiple times. And now on to assembly. You'll notice I'm not using yellow glue on this particular project. I decided to go with a flexible gel CA glue. It works really well, gives you some really good strength as well as the flexibility. So if parts move slightly, it's not just a hard bond like a traditional CA glue. And with the stain on there, that CA bonded really well through the stain into the wood. And you can see I'm basically just assembling the columns now, getting those glued and nailed in, so kind of double support there. And now off to the cap. I'm going to put a little glue on top of the columns as well as the miter. And you'll notice that I did forget that, but I remembered it just in time. And I'm double securing that, not only trusting the glue, but I'm also adding some 23 gauge brad nails in there. Those little pin nails do really well. There they are, the finished product.
Oh, hey, you caught me finishing up the candle stands. Man, I'm excited. With my day job, I'm normally out of town every week, so it's taking me a while to get all these done. But 12 red oak candle stands done with a custom General Finishes gel stain mixture of Java and Georgian Cherry. Think that's going to work out well for my daughter's wedding. I hope she likes it. And as any good redneck is doing, I'm prepping these for storage and transport using the best method any redneck knows how, and that's bubble wrap and Walmart bags. So anyway, I guess with this being the last one I'm putting together here, getting it ready for storage and transport, I guess the candle stand video is a wrap.